ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। मूकं करोति वाचालं वंगुं लङ्घायते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्यईश्वरम्। Hare Krishna. Today we are covering out of the 108 important shlokas of Bhagavad Gita. Today we shall look at second chapter, shloka 13 and 14 is what we are looking at today. 13th shloka, Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhirastatra namuhyati. Translation: as the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Since every living entity is an individual soul, each is changing his body every moment, manifesting sometimes as a child, sometimes as a youth, and sometimes as an old man. Yet the same spirit soul is there and does not undergo any change. This individual soul finally changes the body at death and transmigrates to another body. And since it is sure to have another body in next birth, either material or spiritual, there was no cause for lamentation by Arjuna on account of death, neither for Bhishma nor for Drona, for whom he was so much concerned. Rather, he should rejoice for their changing bodies from old to new ones, thereby rejuvenating their energy. Such changes of body account for varieties of enjoyment or suffering according to one's work in life. So Bhishma and Drona, being noble souls, were surely going to have spiritual bodies in the next life, or at least life in heavenly bodies for superior enjoyment of material existence. So in either case, there was no cause of lamentation. Any man who has perfect knowledge of the constitution of the individual soul, the super soul and nature, both material and spiritual, is called a dhira, or a most sober man. Such a man is never deluded by the change of bodies. The Mayavadi theory of oneness of the spirit soul cannot be entertained on the ground that the spirit soul cannot be cut into pieces as a fragmental portion. Such cutting into different individual souls would make the supreme cleavable or changeable, against the principle of the supreme souls being unchangeable. As confirmed in the Gita, the fragmental portions of the supreme exist eternally, sanatana, and are called kshara, that is, they have a tendency to fall down into material nature. These fragmental portions are eternally so, and even after liberation, the individual soul remains the same, fragmental. But once liberated, he lives an eternal life in bliss and knowledge with the personality of Godhead. The theory of reflection can be applied to the super soul, who is present in each and every individual body and is known as Paramatma. He is different from the individual living entity. When the sky is reflected in water, reflections represent both the sun and the moon and the stars also. The stars can be compared to the living entities and the sun or moon to the Supreme Lord. The individual fragmental spiritual soul is represented by Arjuna, and the Supreme Soul is the personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. They are not on the same level as it will be apparent in the beginning of the 4th chapter. If Arjuna is on the same level with Krishna and Krishna is not superior to Arjuna, then the relationship of instructor and instructed becomes meaningless. If both of them are deluded by the illusory energy Maya, then there is no need for one being the instructor and the other being the instructed. Such instruction would be useless because in the clutches of Maya, no one can be an authoritative instructor. Under the circumstances, it is admitted that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord, the superior in position to the living entity Arjuna, who is a forgetful soul deluded by Maya. Om Tat Sat. ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. So in this verse, Krishna is talking about how the soul is continuously passing through different bodies. How the soul is passing through different bodies, and ultimately it passes out of this body and moves into another body. The way Krishna is presenting this is actually very logical and scientific at the same time, and it can be very clearly understood by a student of Bhagavad Gita, because in the previous two verses Krishna has already established the individuality and eternality of the soul, and with reference to this verse, the eternality of the soul and vis-a-vis that eternality, what is happening to us in this temporal state, in this temporary state of existence within the body that I am in, within the body that you are in. Where does that put us? And who is a Dhira? These are the two things that is discussed by Krishna in this verse. Because Arjuna's problem is what? Arjuna's problem is that he has to kill Bhishma and Drona. And principally or primarily killing Bhishma is of great tribulation to Arjuna. And Dronacharya also, of course. One is a Pitamaha who brought him up with so much of love and affection. The other one is his Guru, who again showed him more favor than his own son. So these two personalities, Arjuna speaks before these verses that these people are worthy of my worship. They are worshipable souls for me. And how do you expect me to kill them? So that also is getting addressed in this shloka, in the sense that what is Krishna saying? Dehino asmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara. That is, the soul is continuously passing through different bodies. This is a very interesting understanding for us, because although we ourselves, each one of us here, although each one of us has actually passed through and is passing through different bodies, somehow because of our Dehatma Buddhi, because of our identification with this body, we are actually not able to comprehend fully how this body is changing. You see? But if you just take it from a third person standpoint, if you take it from a third person's point of view, we all know that when I was a baby, I had a small body, and as I was growing up, I had a different type of body, and in my youth, I had a different type of body, and now I am in middle age, I have a different type of body, and my body is not, what it was. Everybody can actually feel these things and see these things, how the skin is becoming, how the skin is changing, how the color of the hair is changing, how the eyesight is changing, all these things we can all actually see how this body has changed. That means previously there was one body, now there is one body. And even biologically, the biologists say that, I don't know if exactly every 7 or 8 years, all the cells in your body changes, cells in a body is constantly changing, you know. Old cells are falling off and new cells are being created, whatever it is. But then, even by that calculation, every 7 or 8 years you are having a different body. So, Dehino asmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara. And Krishna is making a distinction here of the various stages that the body is going through. And what is that distinction? That distinction is Kaumaram, Yauvanam, Jara. And why Krishna is taking it through this change is to come to that conclusion point of Kaumaram, Yauvanam, Jara, Tatha Dehantara Praptihi. That is, previously you had a Kaumara Sharira or a Kaumara body or a youthful body. You know, and then Yauvanam, you had a young adult's body. And then Jara, Jara means old age. So that means from a very young body, then you had a matured and youthful, energetic body, and then slowly that body is changing, and then you are actually having a body that is not so well functional. You see. And Krishna says then Tatha Deha Antara Praptihi. That is, like this, the embodied soul is having to move from this body to another body. You see. So, just as we have already changed bodies sitting inside this body itself, there comes a time when this body has to be completely thrown out, thrown away, and move into another body. You see? And Krishna is saying that Dhira, one who is a Dhira, he is not worried, he is not bewildered when this happens. You see? So, considering that these are fundamental instructions of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, because we have just started the basic instructions by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. So already Krishna spoke to Arjuna that, what did he say? He said, you are a soul, you are eternal, and you are an individual, and you will be eternally an individual. Only thing that is changing is body. That is what Krishna is coming to in this shloka. That only in this body you have already changed several times, and now you have to change out of the body, which is Tatha Deha Antara Prapti. You see, this Dehantara Prapti, when we speak about, we are always seeing only this one progression, right? That is from childhood to youth to, middle age to old age, etc., etc. One progression. Now, when we read Mahabharata, we find history of another very interesting person. His name is Yayati. Yayati was a big king, very powerful king. And as he was getting older, he did not want an old body, So, everybody knows this. What he did was, he traded his old body for his son's young body, So, that also happened, that somebody actually became old and took on a young body. So, like that, now, Bhishma and Drona, they have already reached their old age, right? And now if they are going to let go of that body and take another young body, what is there to lament? Correct? Such a change should not bewilder a person like Arjuna, and that is what Krishna is saying here. That if you are a Dhira, you will actually not be worried about it. But the problem is, as we have this body and we identify with this body, you know, because we identify with this body only, we identify other people also who are connected to us through this body, like our children, our parents, you know. And when some of those dear things are lost for whatever reason, what happens? You become unhappy, is it not? You become unhappy. But this verse clearly gives an explanation for that also. That your own body, one body has gone, another body has come, this body will go, another body will come. But this is in Pratyaksha Bhava, when you are seeing and experiencing, actually you don't think so much about it, right? Some of us do not think so much about it. There are a lot of people who actually think so much about it. You know, I am getting old. And then they keep telling themselves, no, I am not old. You know, my mind is... Have you heard this? People saying, you know, age is in your mind. So don't grow. No, I am not old. They like to say that. Why? Because they can't stand the change. They can't tolerate the change. But as we become more and more dhira, we will be able to tolerate the change very, very easily. Because we understand that this is inevitable. The change that the body is going through is inevitable. You may do all your exercise, you may do all your skin tightening, you may drink all, you know, from morning to night, you may be drinking so many concoctions to keep the body in this shape. At the most, you will borrow another 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. Beyond that, what guarantee is there? Beyond that, what gain will you have? Nothing. So, thinking about this change is the symptom of somebody who is overly identifying with the body. And not giving too much thought to this, that means you are not overly identifying with the body. And one who can completely ignore this, you know, he is the one who is actually well situated. If one is able to completely ignore this by the understanding that this is bound to happen. This is bound to happen, and in spite of these changes, I have to keep doing what I am doing. You see, not that I get so impacted by these changes and then it actually stops me from doing what I am doing. Then we are in very big problem. So Krishna is very clearly instructing that you have to go through these things, and whatever happens, this body will go. This body will go and another body has to come. There is no other choice. You see? And then Krishna also speaks about dhiras tatra na muhyati. Dhiras tatra na muhyati. Who is a dhira? One who is not bewildered by this. Srila Prabhupada goes on to explain this word dhira furthermore. Who is a dhira? Prabhupada says that one who knows the constitution of the soul, the Paramatma and Prakriti. And Prabhupada is saying that that Prakriti, that is actually which is Daivi Prakriti, and the Para Prakriti and Apara Prakriti. So again, Prabhupada is bringing up that important three subject matters that, you know, the entire Vedantic study is also concentrating upon: understanding the soul, understanding the Supreme Soul and understanding nature or Prakriti. And what is the relation between these three things? He is a Dhira. Why? Already Krishna has explained in the first couple of verses. What has Krishna explained? Krishna has very clearly explained about the soul and also given a small indication about himself as the Supreme Person. Okay, and now in this shloka, this how this material body changes, that also is given. So Dhira is one who actually understands the nature of Atma, the nature of Paramatma, and the nature of Prakriti. And what is the nature of Atma? We have to go back again and again and remember these things, because this is something, however many times we hear, it is most easily forgotten. You know, that Atma is eternal and individual, eternally individualistic. Put it together. So Atma is eternal and eternally individual. So that is the nature of Atma. And the Super Soul or Paramatma is also eternal, and he is always eternally supreme. Okay, the soul is eternal and individual. The Paramatma is eternal, individual and supreme. Paramatma is also always an individual. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always his individual self. He is eternally the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada says this, Krishna was always God. He did not become God, and there won't be a time when he is no more God. You understand? It is not that somebody made Krishna into God. No. Krishna is eternally, he is only God. He is only the Ishvara Parama. He is the supreme, and he is that position of supremacy is eternal. You see? So, Atma, Paramatma and Prakriti, nature. And the nature, what we see here, in this material nature, everything is changing. And that is why the body is also changing. Why? Because the body is made of material elements, the Panjabhutas. Basically, this body is made out of Panjabhutas: earth, water, fire, air and ether. Bhumir, apaha, anala, vayu, kham. Right? So, something that is made up of these 5 factors will eventually, anything that is constituted together by these 5 factors eventually will be released back into these 5 factors. So as the body grows old, Prabhupada explains this in many other places, that once the soul, once the Atma leaves this Kalevaram, what will happen to the Kalevaram? If you burn it, all the 5 bhutas will go back into the 5 bhutas. Or if you bury it, again it will decay, it will become food for so many minute living creatures under the soil, and eventually everything, each bhuta will go back into those. Or if you leave it in the open air and birds or animals come and eat it, again eventually it goes back into the Panchabhutas. So, any which way, this body that we are identifying so much with has only this much value. There is no more value to this. This is actually the stark reality. And straight away Krishna is introducing this stark reality to every student of the Bhagavad Gita. Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumarim yavvanam jara tatha deha antara praptihi dhirastatra na muhyati. And So if this is the nature of the dhira, it means that a dhira is not disturbed when the body is changing, and because he is not disturbed by the change of bodies, what happens is explained in the next shloka, in shloka number 14. So that is why I said we will read both these shlokas together. So the shloka number 14 says, Matra sparshastu kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkhada agama payino nityas tam stitikshasva bharata. Krishna is telling Arjuna, O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception of sign of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So, when one is a dhira, he is able to tolerate what? Matra sparshastu, that everything, my dear Arjuna, is coming through sense perception. Matra sparshastu kaunteya, dear son of Kunti, it is through sense perception what is happening. Shita Ushna Sukha Dukkhada. Shita and Ushna, that is cold and heat, are coming. Sukha and Dukha are coming. So, Matra Sparshastu Kaunteya Shitoshna Sukha Dukkhada Agama Payino Anityas. They are Agama, coming, Apayina, going, Anityaha, they are not permanent. Tam Titikshasva Bharata. Titiksha means tolerant. So, Tam Titikshasva Bharata. So, Arjuna, you must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Now, who is the one who is not disturbed? Dhira is the one who does not get disturbed. Prabhupada says in the purport that, one must learn to tolerate all these non-permanent appearances and disappearances of happiness and distress. Like even in the month of Magh, one is expected to take bath early in the morning. Even though it is very cold, the dharmic people never bother about, because it is cold, I will bathe only at 12 in the afternoon. No. And Prabhupada also writes about how a very dharmic stree, a dharmic woman, she will cook in the kitchen, whether it is the hottest season, which is May and June, or whether it is a cool season when she is able to tolerate. Any which way, she will, whatever the climate may be, because it is her duty to do the cooking, she will enter the kitchen and she will perform her duty. And so, Kshatriya means he should fight, he should do his dharma. Although you may have to be fighting with a friend or a relative, but that does not excuse him from performing his prescribed duty. So, he is telling Arjuna that this appearance and disappearance of happiness and distress, Arjuna, will keep on happening, but you have to follow. You have to follow dharma. Only then, by following dharma, you will come up to the platform of jnana, of knowledge. And only by knowledge and devotion, you can liberate yourself from the clutches of Maya. You see? So, dharma is like the bedrock, is like the foundation stone for everything. So, from dharma comes jnana, and from jnana, bhakti. So, like that, only we can become liberated from this clutches of Maya. This is what Prabhupada speaks in the purport. And Prabhupada also says that here Arjuna is addressed as Kaunteya and is also addressed as Bharata. Kaunteya means, Arjuna, your lineage from your mother's side is very great. And Bharata means from King Bharata. So, your lineage from your father's side is also so great. So, because you come from such great lineages, both from your mother and from your father, you have a great responsibility. and you cannot shirk that responsibility. You see, so you cannot shirk that responsibility, and you cannot lament, because lamenting is not becoming of you. You see, so simply you have to tolerate. Why? If you take in absolute terms, this is very simple way of understanding this. If you take in absolute terms cold and heat, okay, and if you take them in relative terms, what I mean to say is that when the season is hot, what do you want? The only thing that you want is some coolness, something cold when it is very hot, right? Because when it is very hot, you are absolutely, it becomes intolerable. You cannot tolerate the heat, and you just want something so that you will get some coolness, right? Same way, when the climate becomes very cold, what do you want? You want something hot. Very desperately you want something hot, right? So on an absolute level, what is the difference between this hot and cold? In the absence of one, you want it. That's all. When it is hot, you want it to be cold. When it is cold, you want it to be hot. But you cannot have a permanently satisfactory situation as far as we are in the material world. You see, either you will have cold, which you cannot, bear, or you will have heat, which you cannot bear. Same way, either you will have happiness or you will have distress. And it is agama, apayinaha, anityaha. Three things are said by Krishna, that they come and they go. The hot season does not come by your invitation. It will also not go away by your insistence. Same for the cold season, right? Take happiness and distress. However much you want only happiness in life, you will keep getting distress, right? And however much you want happiness to stay in your life, happiness will go. And the nature of both these things is that they are both not permanent. It is here today, gone tomorrow. Right? Happiness, you want happiness to stay, but happiness will not stay. You want distress to go, but distress will not go. And you never invite distress in your life, but like an uninvited guest, distress will come. And just like when an uninvited guest comes, you want that guest to go away, but you will always find that the uninvited guest will stay longer than you want. Why? Because you don't want him to stay at all. So even if he stays for a minute or an hour or 2 hours, as far as we are concerned, that is too much. And happiness also. When happiness comes, we want it to stay forever. But happiness will go after 1 day, 2 days, 1 year, 2 years. And however time it stays and then goes, whenever it goes away, it only gives you disappointment. Correct? But Krishna is telling Arjuna that if you are a Dhira, you will understand that this is not permanent. Neither happiness nor distress is permanent. Neither hot climate, neither cold climate is permanent. Neither favorable nor unfavorable situation is permanent. Even if you go to the astrologer, he will tell you, no, currently this planet is in this position, but after this many years, he will shift to this position, then you will be in a better condition. Sometimes they will say that a certain planet is sitting for the next 50 years, he will sit there. So whatever you do, nothing is going to happen. But the point is, everything in the material world has this common thread of what? The common thread is everything is impermanent. Common thread in the material platform is that everything is impermanent, and they always come uninvited and they always go without telling you. Of course, distress, you very much want it to go, so the moment it goes, you will feel some happiness. Happiness, you don't want it to go, the moment it goes, you will feel some distress. And also, material world is such that what gives you happiness for some time will also give you distress after some time. This is another wonderful nature of material world. That which gives you happiness today can give you distress tomorrow. You can take any example in your life. There are so many examples in our daily lives. When I got it in my hand, I was very happy. 6 months later, I am regretting, why did I get this? Like when you get a new project in hand, you are very happy. Oh, this is a big challenge for me. I got this project, so now at least my job is secure. And then 6 months later, you are crying, I should not have taken this project. Somebody else should have taken it. I was already happy without it. Like this, so many examples you can take in your life that you may think that this is going to give me great happiness, but it will not give you, it will give you distress after some time. Chitraketu is the greatest example in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Chitraketu did not have any children for many years. And then Narada Muni came, and by his mercy, he got a child. And when the child was 5 years old, Chitraketu had many wives, and his chief queen had given birth to this child. And because the chief queen was being favored by Chitraketu, what did all the other co-queens do? They poisoned this 5-year-old child, and the child died. You see? So in this history, it is said that the child was named Harsha Shoka. Harsha Shoka. Harsha means happiness, Shoka means unhappiness. So this child's name was, it seems, Harsha Shoka, means when the child was born, Chitraketu was overjoyed. For 5 years, he had so much of joy by seeing this only child after so many years of marrying so many queens, because he wanted a son who will, continue his lineage like that. And then just a 5-year-old child was poisoned to death, very cruelly killed. And then when Chitraketu is lamenting, then Narada Muni comes again. And then Narada Muni will make that child come back to life. And Chitraketu will say, my son, I am lamenting because of your absence. And this boy will stand up and ask, in which Janma were you my father? He said, I have gone through unlimited number of Janmas, and in every Janma I have had a different father. So please tell me, in which Janma were you my father? You see. So this was actually a great lesson taught to Chitraketu by Narada Muni, by the arrangement of providence. But from this history, we also understand that everything in this material world gives us happiness for some time, and then it gives us distress. You will find so many parents, getting a child is a great boon. But then if that child is not a Suputra, then it becomes the greatest curse. And in Kali Yuga, you will see, as each day goes by, you will see more and more cases like that, where mothers will say that, please take my son away because, he is a good for nothing. So that same child would have given that mother so much of happiness when he was born and when he was still a very small child. But then, because of his whatever reasons, poor association and everything, he turns out to be a not so good son. and then that gives distress. So basically, this happiness and distress are both transient in nature. They come, they go. They will not stay however much you try. So, tolerating them, and how do you tolerate them? How is a Dhira able to tolerate them is because he realizes that whenever something happy or so-called happiness comes to me, I know that this is not going to stay for long. After some time, this will go. So when it goes, the Dhira is prepared because he knows that this will go. So it is gone. So he is not affected. Same way distress. When a distress comes, he will know that this also will go. Just like the happiness came and went, this distress will also come and go. You see? And the only thing that you can do is tolerate it. Because Krishna says tolerate it. Titiksha. Titiksha is also one of the qualities of a sadhu. Titikshvaka karunika ajadashatrava shanta. This is a nature of a sadhu also. So if you want to become a sadhu, if we all want to become sadhus, we must first learn this nature of titiksha. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also teaches us that, taror iva sahishnuna, that is titiksha and sahishnuna are equivalent. That means tolerant than a tree. Tolerant, yes, as tolerant as a tree. So, how does a tree tolerate all the changes in climate? When the sun is blazing, the tree is standing. Tree gives shade to other people. Does the tree have shade? No. Same thing during the cold season, during the rainy season, the rain beats down on the tree can't do anything because it cannot move. It has to simply stand there and tolerate. And even when the snow falls, when it loses all its leaves and become like a dry stick, it has to tolerate and stand there. And then again, when the spring comes, all the leaves will come out. When the autumn comes, the leaves will change. In everything, a tree has to simply stand there and tolerate it. So, there is nothing in this world that is more tolerant than a tree. That is why Mahaprabhu said that we should become more tolerant than a tree. We should become more tolerant than a tree. So Krishna is telling here Arjuna that titiksha, tam titiksha swa bharata. Hey Arjuna, you have to tolerate it. So Arjuna here has to tolerate that temporary unhappiness that will be caused by the death of his Pitamaha and his Guru. Why? Because that is now part of Arjuna's dharma, that they should be engaged in war against one another, and Arjuna has the unenviable task of killing Bhishma and Drona. So it is a very unpleasant thing to do, but then Arjuna has to do it. So Krishna is indicating here that although dharma may be unpleasant for me to perform, it may not be giving me instantaneous joy or gratification, because everything that we do in this material world, we are actually always looking for instantaneous gratification. I want to pop a pill into my mouth and I want to be free. This is the conditioning that we have all gotten into, that instantly I want gratification. That I do this, immediately I want result. And as Kali Yuga progresses, we become more and more impatient. When you actually get onto the highway and see the number of cars and everybody is speeding and everybody is honking, it's as if they have to get somewhere to do the most important thing in their life. But if you actually ask them, they will all be going to their daily drudgery work. Nothing great to be accomplished by going 2 minutes faster. But still, you want to be fast. Why? Because instant gratification is now our nature. And anything that takes time, we don't have the patience. So, dharma is not something that will give instant gratification. Dharma is always long term. Everything that Krishna speaks for my eternal well being is long term. Why? Because that is eternal, no? Whereas we are within this short term body, within this short term life, we are doing all short term activities which give short term gratification, short term result. Vis-a-vis all dharmic activities that are recommended by Krishna, recommended in the Vedic literature, is long term. It is for our eternal good. It is not for instant gratification. It is not the gulab jamun that you pop into your mouth and you can feel the sweetness and the nectar and everything. No. Dharma is more like the amla that you put in your mouth and it will be very bitter to bite and chew. It will be bitter, it will be sour, everything. But eventually you will get the sweetness. So, titikshvaha. You have to have titiksha, tolerance, and tolerating the difficulties, tolerating the unpleasantness, tolerating the inconveniences. One must perform one's dharma. Then actually the Supreme Lord becomes pleased by performance of such dharma. So here Arjuna is being guided by Krishna that it is like this. Anyway, the body is going to be changed. And neither you nor me has any control over it. It is all controlled by Prakriti or by nature. So we spoke about the Dhira who understands soul, super soul and nature. So the Dhira understands that this change of my body is not in my control. At best I can delay it by a few days, few months, few years. That's all. Beyond that I can't do anything. So that is under the control of nature. So two things. One is I am not bothered about it or I am not affected by it. Second, I tolerate it. So not being bothered about it and tolerating it. Both these things together, they help me to engage in my dharma. These two things put together will help me engage in my dharma because I understand that this dharma is actually for my eternal good. And every other instant gratification that I am now getting is of ultimately no use to me. So, tam titikshasya bharata. Everything will come, everything will go. Good things also will come and go, bad things also will come and go. But dharma remains eternal. I remain eternal. You see? So my eternality points to my eternal Sanatana Dharma, and everything else in between is like a passing cloud. It will come, it will go. It will appear sometime, it will pass, like when the wind comes, you will see the cloud here, after some time here, after some time here, after some time, out of sight, gone. Same way, we will see body, baby body, then boy body, then young man body, then 6-pack body, then 8-pack body, then 0-pack body and no body, like that. So, Dhira is not bewildered, and because he is not bewildered, he is able to tolerate it, that he sees the impermanence in everything. So, these are the instructions clubbed together in the shlokas 13 and 14 of chapter 2. Bhagavad Gita Grantharaj ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.